Hi, I'm Riley. I am from Austin, Texas originally, so I kind of always knew that I wanted to stay close-ish to home. And then after talking to TCU, I just found it was a perfect fit for me. I have played volleyball pretty much my whole life. I played volleyball and softball throughout high school, and then just volleyball was something that I loved and decided to play at the next level, and I've loved it here so far. I'm a freshman, so I just finished my first season this past fall, and we are almost done with our spring season coming up in the next few weeks. But yeah, I love it here at TCU.
For sure, that's awesome. And you said that you're a freshman, so NIL, all the changes kind of passed in 2021. Like going through your recruiting process, was name, image, and likeness talked about at all? And was that something that maybe you paid attention to in your recruiting process, or were you more focused on the school and the fit and the program?
Um, it definitely wasn't like top five things of when you're going through a recruiting
Yeah,
process, you have like certain things that you're looking for. It definitely was always a benefit of being in the DFW area because there's such great networking here, and that's really come to light since being here too. And it's made me even more grateful that I'm in this community. So looking back, I like me personally, I'm on like our recruiting committee at our volleyball team, and that's something that I'm presenting now to like new recruits, especially now that it's becoming bigger and more popular. Of like Fort Worth is just an amazing community, and TCU has a great status and a lot of resources for NIL as well.
for sure. And like as a freshman in your first season, like did you expect to get NIL opportunities right off the bat, or were you thinking maybe this was something that I'll ease into like my junior or senior year? Like I guess how was that kind of like reality for you, just like jumping onto the team and all of that?
I didn't really know what to expect. I definitely didn't like looking back. I didn't think that being a freshman, I'd be a super like hot target for brands and companies to like reach out to me and have a brand deal with them. So that was a nice surprise, I think. But I think just taking advantage of your social media. I don't really think that age matters. And looking back, I'm really glad that I kind of took advantage when I did, so that I have like a firm foundation going into my next years of college.
For sure, that's awesome. We did some research, I believe a year or two ago, and it was really interesting. We were actually seeing like freshmen and sophomores were like jumping into NIL and getting more opportunities a little bit quicker than their junior and seniors who maybe hadn't like had NIL opportunities when they first came in, and then everything changed. So that's great for you that you're hopping in all right away, and glad that you're on your recruiting committee and kind of pushing that to the new recruits too. So far, like how has NIL made an impact on you?
I think NIL has definitely taught me more than I thought it would. I think it's a great learning experience. Not just, I mean, it's great to like have brand deals and make money, but I've learned a lot about myself and learning how to network and learning what I can and can't put on social media, and kind of learning how to use social media as a way to make money instead of just for fun. So that's been kind of like a learning curve, but I think it's cool because obviously in any professional field or career that you go into, social media can be used as an outlet to um, make money. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We always say like social media is kind of a new resume with student athletes, especially, and trying to learn those life skills, like especially taxes, like tax season. We're just coming off of that right now. Today is tax day. So a lot of student athletes are filing taxes for the first time and stuff like that, which has been really interesting and fun to see, and just like what questions they're asking, and all of that. And I know kind of at the beginning of this, we talked about how Bree came on site for an education session. So besides having Open Doors come and talk to TCU, and you can talk a little bit on that too, like what has TCU done in terms of supporting you with your NIL resources and NIL education?
Yeah, so like you said, we have open door speakers that come, and that's our main platform that we use just because it goes through our compliance, and it's a really easy way to make sure that everything's authentic. But in addition to that, our NIL programs have also partnered with our business school here. So we have a lot of resources through the business school, and we actually have like an NIL class now that student athletes can take, or anyone can take, because NIL can be something that, like, if you're into social media marketing, things like that, if you want to get into that field. But just more and more things every year. And I think especially we have a great business school at TCU as well. And so I think partnering with them was a really, really cool advantage that we get to have.
For sure. We're starting to see a lot more schools do that, and it's awesome that TCU is beginning to tap in. Have you taken the NIL class yet, or do you know any of your
I
teammates who
have
have?
not. I've had some teammates that have
Okay.
taken it, which, like, some of the things, it's not what you think like a class would be. Like, some of their assignments are just like getting out of their comfort zone, so they'll have to go to the grocery store and like ask 10 people to take a picture with them or something. Like, just little life skills about NIL that are needed, that you wouldn't really think of.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you plan to take it at some point?
I hope so. I hope I like have time in my schedule too, because that'd be really cool.
Sweet. Awesome. I kind of like going off of that too. Like you talked about the compliance aspect of NIL and having open doors education sessions. Like for you, how has open doors helped in your NIL journey?
Open Doors has made NIL really, really easy and accessible, just because it can be overwhelming. I mean, if I didn't have Open Doors, I think I would have to reach out to brands and restaurants or boutiques, like, privately, and kind of navigate through social media DMs or messages, which can have a lot of, just a lot of like room for error there and like miscommunication. And also, I think it's an easy way to kind of get scammed or not have people be authentic in that way. So Open Doors is just like a great platform for all my brand deals are right there, and I know that they're authentic and that they'll go through my compliance, and I won't mess up and like have some random person like scam me or something.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that we always pride ourselves to on open doors is protecting the athlete. Like that's our number one goal at the end of the day is making sure that athletes stay safe, stay eligible. Open Doors has been doing this for about 10 years at the professional level, and then obviously with NIL going into the collegiate level. So I'm glad that you're seeing and recognizing that. And I guess like talking about that even more, like can you walk us through maybe your first NIL deal and what was that like for you, and maybe what was your reaction and process and maybe questions that you had?
So my very first brand deal was with Sweet Green. It's like a salad, make your own salad place, and they were opening like 2 blocks away from Fort Worth, so they kind of made use of their location to TCU and like the TCU athletes. So myself and like a few other people landed deals with them where we got paid up front and we got store credit to spend at the restaurant in exchange for, it was like one Instagram post and 2 stories or something like that. And I was kind of surprised because that's like kind of big in my mind, and all the advice I had gotten is just, kind of start small. Like, you're not going to get something huge like right off the bat, which I thought that was pretty cool, like getting Sweet Green. So yeah, that was my first one.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like for you, when you got that open doors notification, like, I don't know, what was your first reaction there? Like, were you like, what is this? Or I'm like, oh, like, I know exactly what this is. Or how was that
I was
process?
definitely excited. I was kind of walking into the unknown, but Open Doors does a really good job of like kind of, I mean, before you apply, there's an outline of all the things that you'll need to do. So I kind of had an idea. And then communicating with Sweet Green too, like there's the chat column. So if you have any questions, you can just ask them. And I mean, we're all trying to work together to make the best content and do the best that we can. So I think that communication, like being able to directly communicate with Sweet Green, was also really helpful.
For sure. And going off that too with like the communication aspect, and I know that you talked about like networking and life skills a little bit earlier too. what life skills have you learned from these NIL opportunities that you'll take into your future career after volleyball is over?
I think I might have touched on it earlier a little bit with like the NIL class, but I think just learning to have courage and like do things that are uncomfortable and new is something that I have taken out of NIL because it's not everyone's favorite thing to like post a brand deal on their social media. They're like, oh, like this is gonna like people are gonna unfollow me now. Like they think all I do is just like post brand deals, and so there's definitely that that like fear walking into it. But I think just learning to be uncomfortable, not only with that, but also like getting comfortable reaching out to people, I think is also really important. And then another life skill I think too is just having professional communication. I think I've learned so much about just like how to talk to people and present myself and put myself kind of like on a platter of like, here, this is like what I am, this is who I like, what I believe, just so that I'm my most authentic self and that I'm not doing things that, or I'm not accepting brand deals that aren't representative of who I am off of social media.
For sure, that's a good way to put it. And I'm glad that you said too, like it might be a little bit awkward posting a brand deal at first. Like I know for me, like when I did my first deal, I was like, oh gosh, like are my teammates gonna judge me, or like are people from who follow me from like high school and stuff, are they gonna be like, what the heck is this? So there is kind of that uncomfortable aspect with it that I don't think a lot of people maybe realize right off the bat, just posting something that is still authentic to your social media following, but it's a little bit different than what you normally do. So I'm glad that you added that in. And that kind of leads into the next question too. Like, what has been the hardest part about navigating NIL opportunities, and like what do you see as like the most challenging part of NIL?
I think just being patient. I think from a lot of outsiders looking in, like I know when I talk to family and friends, they're like, well, don't you just like make so much money in NIL and do brand deals every week and all this kind of thing? But it's really, if you want to do it right, it's like having a job. You have to like be consistent with your social media presence and be smart about like what you're reposting. And I think being patient and like letting and starting small with brand deals and like doing things like this. For example, for me, like I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm the best speaker, and I'm not like one to just like get up and interview like whoever. Like that's not really super my thing. But I know this is a great opportunity for something else possibly in the future. So yeah.
For sure. I think that's another good point there, and just like getting out of your comfort zone. I guess too, like I'm kind of like circling back a little bit to some things that you said earlier, but you said like the Dallas Fort Worth community is really great, and that was something that kind of drew you to TCU. Like, what have you learned from like tapping into like the local community, like in terms of NIL, and have you like leaned into the local community at all to get deals?
I think we have a great community of just families here, and so for me, leaning into my community is just really taking advantage of when we're signing autographs after games or just talking to families, really trying to connect with them and get them to come back to volleyball camps and getting to connect with them more because like I had one brand deal, for example, where I just like signed a volleyball for someone, and that seems like so like I never expected someone to like want a volleyball from me, but I think just kind of like being a good presence in your community can have a really big impact. And then also just we have so many restaurants and stores around here. It's I think it's also a great thing to just reach out to them and be like, hey, do y'all have any NIL opportunities, or are y'all interested in doing any? And some people say no, and some people are like, yeah, we haven't really looked into that yet because it is kind of a new thing, but I think that is also a good opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely been a learning process for fans about NIL, and that's something that we keep trying to push at Open Doors is like, hey, fans, like you can tap into NIL too. It's not just a brand and athlete transaction. So I'm glad that you've jumped into the fan deal side a little bit, just because a lot of athletes haven't necessarily done that yet. So it's a nice perspective that you have with that. And getting into like some more like, I don't know, like fun or like rapid fire questions, you could say. But if you could do an NIL deal with any brand, who would it be with?
I would say, other than Air Jordan, no, I'm just kidding. I would say I really like Gorgiana. It's like a jewelry company, which I already love, so it'd be super easy to promote it anyway, because it would be just like me being like, hey guys, I actually love this. Like, y'all should get it too.
For sure. I think that's a good one. I've definitely seen some of their stuff on social media before in the past. And then like another question too, like if you received $1,000 from an NIL deal, how would you spend that money?
I would probably put it in my savings first and then use it, I don't know, like clothes or
Yeah,
something.
for sure. I think like for a lot of people too, it's like we always say like, especially like the fan deal side of thing, it's like $50 or like $100. Like that's a lot to a student athlete, especially like trying to navigate your schedule and all of that too. I guess like another question too is what NIL deals have you done so far, and what is your, I guess, NIL resume kind of looking like with brands right now?
So I did Sweet Green and I did the volleyball. And then I have a few coming up with Hallie Hair and through 98 Strong. I've also have one with Bad Birdie, and I think I think that's all so far.
For sure. Well, we'll definitely start pushing more your way, and you've done great so far with the NIL opportunities, and
Awesome.
excited to see your career at TCU, and hopefully you can connect with the community more and keep getting those NIL deals going.